This is the $500 million palace no one wanted to live in. Gold-plated walls, diamond chandeliers, a ballroom bigger than most people's houses. But it sits empty, rotting from the inside out. Because sometimes the most expensive homes become the most cursed prisons. To understand why $500 million palace could be abandoned, we need to look at the most mysterious abandoned billion-dollar mansions around the world. Starting with the tech mogul's fortress that once hosted the world leaders before it became a digital ghost town. It wasn't a mansion, it was a fairy tale built from concrete and gold, a private amusement park, a zoo with llamas and chimps, a train that circled oak groves like time could be rewound. For years it worked, crowds cheered, music played, midnight premieres inside private theaters, spotlights pretending to be stars. But magic cracks when reality walks in. Lawsuits drained more than money. Scandals drained trust. Rides slowed. The music cut. The laughter disappeared. Caretakers stayed, polishing brass, feeding animals, dusting velvet seats no one sat in. The carousel mirrors turned cloudy. The Ferris wheel lights blinked against an empty sky. Grass broke through brick pathways. Zoo cages rattled in the wind. The train that once chugged past crowds now rusted in silence. From above, Neverland still looked alive, but step inside, and you heard only the soft creak of hinges, the thud of a gate closing itself. A paradise built to rewind time proved a harder truth. Time only moves one way. Neverland wasn't sold, it was surrendered, and the echo it left is louder than the music ever was. It was supposed to be eternal, a monument so massive it would outlive the man who ordered it. $4 billion, over 1,000 rooms, marble hauled from every corner of Romania. Ceausescu called it a house for the people, but it was built on the ruins of their homes. Entire neighborhoods were erased, churches leveled, families displaced, streets rewritten in stone. Inside, there are halls longer than city blocks, crystal chandeliers heavier than cars, carpets so vast they were woven inside the rooms because no door was wide enough. But Ceausescu never saw his throne. In 1989, he was executed by firing squad. The palace stood finished but unclaimed. Today, it sits like a ghost in daylight. Government offices occupy fragments of it. Tours shuffle through a handful of gilded rooms, but most of it, hundreds of chambers, remains dark, sealed, unfinished. It is the second largest building in the world, but it has no true master. A hollow empire built for a man who never got to rule it. Because some palaces are not homes, they are tombstones. It was meant to be the largest private home in America, 90,000 square feet, 14 bedrooms, 11 kitchens, marble imported from Italy, staircases modeled after French palaces, a private theater built to rival Hollywood sound stages. David Siegel, the timeshare king, called it his Versailles, a monument to wealth built on borrowed money. But then came 2008. The markets collapsed, credit vanished, and the palace froze mid-construction. For years, it stood half-formed, marble stacked in crates, windows sealed with plastic sheets, empty pools collecting rainwater. Tour buses stopped outside to glimpse the dream in decay, a skeleton of ambition, leaking and crumbling before it was ever lived in. Eventually, construction resumed, but the cracks remain. The walls remember mold. The ceilings remember silence. Because Versailles was never meant for Florida. It is the most expensive private home on Earth. $2 billion. 27 stories of steel and glass rising above Mumbai. Antlia, helipads, a ballroom of mirrors, an ice room that snows on command. But not every floor is alive. Rumors say entire levels remain sealed, silent, unlit. Architecture experts whispered the building was cursed, that its foundations defied sacred geometry, that bad energy would swallow anyone who lived above certain heights. The Ambanis deny it, but the neighbors talk, and from the street, some windows have never glowed. A palace in the sky, with empty chambers, no one dares to enter, because when superstition collides with billions, money may buy the tower, but fear still owns the rooms. Gold-plated faucets, a mirrored jacuzzi room, private nightclub with zebra print carpet, and outside, tiger cages, because for Mike Tyson, even pets had to roar. The mansion was 52 rooms of pure spectacle, a palace built not to live in, but to dominate the way he dominated the ring. Then came the bankruptcy. The millions drained faster than than the fountains. The boxer left and the house stood waiting. For years it rotted. Jacuzzis cracked. Chandeliers collected cobwebs. The smell of chlorine lingered in pools that never rippled again. Visitors found empty halls echoing like stadiums after a fight. A champion's roar was reduced to silence. Later, a church bought it, but even now much of it sits unused. A cathedral of excess no sermon could fill. Because Tyson could beat men, but he couldn't beat the house that carried his ghosts. It wasn't just a mansion. It was an empire with gates. A private zoo, airstrips carved into the jungle, a bullring for spectacles only he could command. Pablo Escobar built Hacienda Nápoles as his crown jewel, a fortress where wealth became concrete paradise. But paradise turned feral. In 1993, Escobar was gone. The gates shattered. Looters poured in. Walls stripped bare. Bullet holes stitched across marble like tattoos. The animals remained. Hippos bred uncontrollably, spilling into rivers and towns. A kingpin's pets became an invasive species, his ghost haunting Colombia through teeth and tusks. Today, the estate is a theme park. Families ride water slides where assassins once stood guard. But the shadows don't leave, because Hacienda Nápoles was never a home. It was a kingdom. And kingdoms fall in blood, not silence. 110 rooms. Ballrooms painted with European masters. Gardens designed by the architect of Central Park. It was called the Widener family's monument to unshakable wealth. But wealth doesn't stop waves. In 1912, the Titanic sank. Widener heirs went with it. A fortune built on steel and steam crumbled overnight. The mansion became a mausoleum. Curtains drawn. Banquets canceled. Rooms left waiting for guests who would never arrive. Time gnawed at the estate. Roofs collapsed. Windows shattered. Weeds strangled fountains that once sang with water. Today, Linwood Hall is a hollow castle, a ghost of Gilded Age arrogance. Because money can build a palace, but it cannot keep the bloodline alive to fill it. 56,000 square feet, more than 100 rooms, a bowling alley, an ice rink, a gift-wrapping room for parties that never ended. Television mogul Aaron Spelling called it his dream house. Hollywood called it the manor. But even dreams can be too large to live in. After Spelling's death, the mansion passed hands. Billionaire heirs, socialites, European royalty. Each one tried to tame it. None succeeded. Entire wings were sealed. Doors locked. Lights off. Corridors stretching into silence. A palace designed for spectacle became a warehouse of emptiness. Dust grew where servants once bustled. Marble floors echoed only with footsteps of guards. The manor still stands, polished, guarded, but hollow at the center. Because a house that big doesn't shelter, it swallows. The $500 million palace no one wanted to live in. Chateau Louis XIV, France. This is the palace that broke the curse of wealth itself. Chateau Louis XIV sits in the French countryside like a monument to everything money can't buy. Peace, happiness, or even a single night's sleep. The $500 million price tag made it the world's most expensive home, but that was before anyone discovered why it remained empty for over a decade. The chateau was built by an anonymous Saudi buyer who spared no expense recreating Versailles for the modern age. Italian marble was hand-selected by the same family that supplied the Vatican. French craftsmen spent 4 years gold-leafing ceilings, using techniques passed down since Napoleon's reign. The wine cellar alone cost $50 million and could store 3,000 bottles at perfect temperature and humidity. But this was just the foundation of the buyer's obsession with perfection. Then came the technology that turned paradise into a digital nightmare. The chateau featured the world's most advanced smart home system. Sensors in every room, cameras monitoring every angle, and AI controlling everything from lighting to climate. The Saudi owner wanted complete control over his $500 million investment, but the system developed a mind of its own. Guests reported lights flickering on and off throughout the night. Doors would lock and unlock without explanation. The temperature would plummet to freezing or spike to unbearable heat with no human input. The AI's voice echoed through empty halls, announcing weather updates to rooms where no one was listening. The chateau had become a $500 million haunted house, possessed not by ghosts, but by its own technology. The digital demons were just the beginning of the palace's curse. The first family to lease the chateau for $300,000 per month lasted exactly 72 hours. They reported that every surface in the house, the gold leaf walls, the Italian marble, even the crystal chandeliers, felt ice cold to the touch, no matter how high they set the heating system. Their children woke up screaming every night, claiming they could hear whispers coming from inside the walls. The second family lasted 2 weeks before the chateau's wine cellar began mysteriously flooding. $2 million worth of vintage wine was destroyed overnight when the climate control system malfunctioned, turning the temperature-controlled paradise into a swamp. When maintenance crews investigated, they found flooding in 12 different locations simultaneously, as if the chateau itself was crying. Then came the tech entrepreneur who thought he could solve the problems with more technology. He installed additional sensors, upgraded the AI system, and brought in Silicon Valley's best engineers to debug the chateau's digital soul. But the house fought back harder. Every piece of new technology malfunctioned within 48 hours. Smartphones died instantly upon entering certain rooms. Laptops displayed text in languages that didn't exist. They were built to last forever. Marble, gold, glass. But forever is fragile, and wealth doesn't outlive the people who spend it. From Neverland to Versailles, every mansion left behind whispers the same truth. Money can buy walls, but not peace, not loyalty, not time. And when the owners vanish, the palaces don't forgive. They stand silent, waiting, rotting, because in the end, no fortune is too great to crumble, and no house is too perfect to be abandoned. If you want more secrets of wealth, power, and the places money was never meant to reach, make sure you subscribe to Luxuries.